Hi, everybody. It's me, Tim. Today, I want to go over the effects of the attributes in Arcanum. Yesterday, I talked about the effects of the special attributes in Fallout. People really seem to like that. So I'm going to go through Arcanum today. Let me address, yes, my shirt is super wrinkly. I got this at the very bottom of the box I found in the garage. It is when we shipped Arcanum, and yep, this is an Arcanum shirt. I will show you. Got a picture of Arcanum on the back. When Troika made these shirts, everybody got 2 shirts, because we know people like to keep one. This one was immediately folded, unwashed, and it's been at the bottom of a box now for probably about 23 years, give or take a year. And it smells a little funky. The dog liked it. As soon as I finish this, I'm probably going to take it back off, because there is an odor coming off of it. Anyway, this Arcanum one, it's going to be like the Fallout one, in that I'm going to talk about what it does for players. I'm not going to talk about stats being used as prereqs. And again, I'm not going to talk about the script. I'm just going to talk about systemic effect of stats. This one was much easier to do, because since last year I had figured out how to get Arcanum to run under a modern compiler, Visual Studio. I just brought up Visual Studio and said, for each stat, like stat strength, I just said, find all references. And boom, there's a list of every place in the code that stat is referenced. So it was very easy for me to go through and make this. So let's begin. So I'll start with strength. Strength doesn't affect any skills in Arcanum. It factors into your hit points. It factors into your carry weight and therefore determines how encumbered you are. It gives you a damage bonus with any melee weapons, and if you take it to 20, that damage bonus is increased beyond what the formula says it should be. So you get a really much more powerful damage bonus. It also has so it gives you a 2-hit roll penalty if you ever use a weapon that has a min strength, any kind of weapon, melee or ranged. And it also increases the throw range of any thrown weapon. Pretty good stat. Dexterity. Like Fallout, probably went overboard. It affects the following skills: bow, dodge, melee, throwing, backstab, pickpocket, and picklock. It also improves your AC. It also improves your speed. And if your dexterity is 20, it improves your speed much more than the formula would indicate. So you get a crazy fast speed if you have a 20 dex. Also, I don't know why I did this. It said, if you're in the code, there was a line that said, oh, if you have a level 20 dexterity, you can never slip on an icy tile. Then below it is the formula for it, for checking slippage. And next to it is a comment, and I don't know if it's my comment or another programmer's. It read a little bit like Jesse Reynolds, but it wasn't signed. Usually we put like TDC or JLR, or, we put our initials at the end of it. It just said, according to this formula, nobody with a 13 dex or higher will ever slip on an icy tile. And they're right. So 20 dexterity was supposed to also give you that non-slip bonus, but it looks like that happens if you have at least a 13, the way the code is set up. So next is Constitution. Constitution doesn't affect any skills. Constitution doesn't affect your hit points, but it does make your hit points heal faster. So you get them back at a higher rate. The heal rate is higher. Constitution does factor into how many fatigue points you have. It also not only increases your base resistance to poison, but also increases your poison recovery rate. And if your Constitution is 20, you're completely immune to poison. It skips it in the saving throw check for poison. It just says you have a 20, return, succeed. So it doesn't matter whether it's a super virulent poison or magical. It doesn't matter. You can't be poisoned. Constitution is also used for saves. Besides poison, it's used for saving versus stun. And if you do get stunned, the higher your Constitution, the less the duration of the stun. It also increases your save for being crippled on an arm or leg, or for being blinded. Okay, the next stat is beauty. Poor beauty. Poor orphan stat. Beauty doesn't affect any skills, and the only thing it does in the game is adjust the initial reaction modifier that an NPC has to you before you open your mouth and use a speech skill or say anything. Yes, like some of the other stats, if you have a beauty of 20, it increases that initial reaction much higher than the formula says it should. In fact, I don't think anybody can be, I know they can't be below neutral to you. I don't even think they can dislike you. Or I think they have to like you, at least until you open your mouth. And that's all it does. Beauty really should have done other things, but I guess not being a beautiful person, I couldn't think of anything beauty should do. Now let's talk about intelligence. Intelligence in Arcanum affected a lot of skills: gambling, heal, repair. Plus, if you took a 20 intelligence, every skill got a bonus when it was rolled, as if it was 10 points higher, which is amazing for a level 20. Intelligence also was used as the minimum to cast a lot of spells, including if that spell was on a scroll. So you had to be smart to cast it and also smart to even read it. So in Arcanum, you could maintain a spell. So if you cast a spell that had a duration that meant it was one of the maintained ones, you got a little icon showing you were maintaining it. The total number of spells you could maintain was proportional to your intelligence. All of the tech degrees had minimums on them as well, minimum intelligence. Plus, as you probably are aware if you played Arcanum, we had dumb dialogue lines in it as well. But we extended beyond what we did on Fallout. We also had dumb quest entries. So when you got a quest, the entry in your journal was a dumb version, which some of them were hilarious because, of course, someone asked you to do something and you didn't understand what they asked, and what's in your journal isn't going to help you because you're the one writing your journal. So the journal also has a very dumb entry that sometimes makes you go, what am I supposed to be doing for this person? And rumors. I don't know how many people have used this system, but you could buy rumors off people. You know, somebody in a dialogue could say, hey, you could say, hey, have you heard anything going on? What's the gossip? And that was part of the procedural dialogue system. If you asked for a rumor, you would get an entry in your log as well. And those entries were also written in a dumb fashion. So even though the person may have told you what the rumor was, what you wrote down was dumb. Me leading you to go, I don't remember what the rumor really was. Intelligence. So let's move on to perception. Perception was used for the prowling skill, spot traps, firearms, and disarm traps. The perception skill was also used for the player to detect prowling enemies. So the higher your perception, the easier it was for you to spot them. And you usually spotted them farther away. The bonus for having a 20 perception was that even worked on invisible characters. You could spot an invisible character as if they were just prowling. Perception also reduced the range penalties for any skill. This mostly was used for combat skills, but it was true for anything. So past a certain distance, a lot of skills said, you take a penalty. That penalty was reduced. So the higher your perception was, it pushed out the range to which distance penalties began to be applied. So willpower only affected the haggle skill. Willpower also factored into hit points, but at half the rate that strength and con did. So every point in strength and con counted double what every point in willpower did for hit points. Similarly for fatigue, willpower factored into fatigue, but at only half the rate of constitution. So for every point of con, you got twice as many points of fatigue as for a point of willpower. Willpower, furthermore, was used as minimums for many spells. It gave resistance to some skills. I think they were the speech skills, but the part of the code just said when someone was calling in for a skill resistance. And similarly, it gave you a resistance to any spell that said it was willpower resisted. And if you took a willpower of 20, you ignored those spells. Those spells would not work on you. And then for charisma was an interesting one. It had, when I told Visual Studio to search for stat charisma, it found the most references of any stat in the game. First of all, it only controlled one skill, persuasion. But it also controlled how many followers you were allowed to have. It was your charisma divided by 4 rounded down, it looks like. Also, when you told a follower to wait somewhere, they would wait for a certain length of time. And when that time expired, they would go back to wherever their home point was, which for most of them was where you found them. But I think Virgil didn't go back to the crash site. I think he went back to some temple. So they had a home point, which may be different than where they spawned. With a higher charisma, followers got less angry at you when their waiting time expired. Because if you told them to wait somewhere and they hit their patience limit, they would lose a little reaction to you. So the next time you found them, they might be a little snippy with you. What surprised me, though, was the number of locations in code where we checked to see if charisma was 20. So these are all the bonuses you get for setting your charisma to 20 in Arcanum. First of all, followers will wait forever. It's not that they won't get angry at you. If you tell them to stay somewhere, they will stay in that location forever. So I hope you remember where you left them. Also, followers will never surrender or flee for any reason. Spells can't make it happen. It can't happen through a dialogue. It can't happen because you did bad things. They will never surrender or flee. Also, followers will switch to you even if they're already listed as a follower of someone else, if you have a charisma of 20. I was confused by that because I wasn't sure if NPCs ever marked people as followers. But then I remembered, oh yeah, we have multiplayer, which means in a multiplayer game, you can actually steal another player's follower by having a conversation with them and saying, hey, come follow me. Also, a follower will always disband if ordered to at level 20, but they will disband for no other reason. So they will never leave you unless you flat out order it. And finally, at level 20, followers will never get a negative reaction adjustment to anything the player says or does. So once you hit level 20, that's the minimum that reaction will ever be towards you. And anything you do that's positive will get added in, and it will never lower down again. So you can easily, once you hit level 20, make all your followers love you. And I thought that was pretty cool. So that was the effects of all 8 stats. But then I noticed something in the compiler. I talked about what I called the 1-point fiasco, where I was convinced to reduce every cost of every stat, and every attribute, every skill, every tech degree, everything in the game to costing 1 point. I thought we did that in data. I found a conditional compilation flag in Arcanum's code, which means you can turn it on and off and it will go back to the old system. Because it looked like, at least for where I saw it for attributes, and I think it was in skills, there was a data array. It wasn't kept externally as a data file. Now, I didn't dive into this. It may still be that spells and tech degrees have their minimums kept in their data. But it occurred to me that I could recompile it with that flag. What I might do, I don't know, but I might recompile it and play it both ways. Play it the original way, where it costs more and more points per level to buy things up, and the way it's shipped, which is 1 point, just to see if I still feel the same way. Because a lot of you in the comments were saying you think the 1-point system is great and it's what made you love Arcanum. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should try it. Maybe I should go back and forth and see now, 20 years later, what I think of it. If I do that, I will let you know and tell you if I change my mind. But now I really have to get out of this shirt because it smells. So have a good day.